Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here. Welcome to my review for Kishiryu Sentai Ryusoulger episode 5. So this episode was kind of Black Ranger's episode, Ryusoul Black's episode, where we sort of integrate him more into the team and debut Milneedle. It's really weird. I felt this went really strange. Like, not this episode, I mean this episode a little bit. The green and black intro in general, because I felt like Ryusoulger was kind of rushed a little bit, but then I liked that they seemed to be taking their time with green and black not being on the team so much. And it kind of seemed like they were going to have green integrate a little bit more and then black. And like they had the episode last time where green sort of, you know, started to get along with the team more. And then this episode it seemed like they were just already all working together, but it was just mainly about black, you know, understanding their point of view in terms of their strategy and coming around to it. I mean, it was green was the one that came to that resolution, but it seemed like he understood that. I don't know, it just seemed weird because I felt like there was going to be a definitive moment or moments for either each of them or both of them about them joining up, and it just seems like it was kind of glossed over. So like it felt weird because I think that could have been more interesting. Like, I feel really weird about Ryusoulger right now. I feel like it's really basic. I think I said an episode review or two ago, it reminds me a lot of Dino Force Brave in the sense that I feel like it's just hitting the most generic Sentai tropes possible or checkpoints possible without feeling like we were really there. Like, I feel like they really want us to feel like we're in the status quo, but I feel like I don't feel like they got us there right, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't feel like I'm in the show. Like, they established everything right. It feels like it was just so rushed, and it feels like they're so established, but I just don't feel like they are. It's like a weird feeling to describe, so I'm probably just spewing a bunch of hot nonsense here. The basic premise of their sort of reason for not getting along, they weren't like super fighting or anything, not ultra, was that, you know, green and black believed in potentially taking out the person that was contracted with Minosaur or whatever. And obviously that's something that's not going to stand in Sentai for very long. But I think it's unfortunate that so often Sentai will squash interesting conflicts because I think it makes for a more interesting dynamic for however long a conflict in philosophy will go. And obviously for something like Sentai, this is kind of an extreme solution, but it's still always kind of disappointing to see them squash any kind of conflict like that, and it's often so narrow-minded. Like, Green said, like, oh, one life's not worth everybody. I'm like, well, what if it's a serial killer? I'm like, okay, maybe then, you know? Obviously they're not going to bring that up, and I don't think that it would be something that would always be in the series, but I think it would be something interesting to keep on the table in some form. Like, maybe there could be a situation in the future where there was a person that wasn't so great that, you know, Black might go back to that philosophy, or Green might go back to that philosophy, or maybe there's a situation where like there's a time element in which they just don't have the time and they could easily solve this by taking out the person. Like, again, I don't think they would do it, but I think it's something interesting to keep on the table. And with the way Ryusoulger's been going, I feel like it's just already off the table. And but yeah, other than that, there's like not a whole lot to talk about with this episode. I mean, there was a couple things I quite liked about it. Like, I still continue to like that the Minosaurs function a little bit different, a little bit more Rider-esque, just because I think, again, it's a nice change of pace from the sort of generic Sentai monster motivations of the week. Green got bitten by the Minosaur this week, and the other person too, and it's not healed yet, which I thought was a nice lead-in to next episode. Like, it was nice to have a little something that, you know, would carry over to next week and wouldn't just wrap things up neatly, and obviously it'll probably tie into the story of the even further Kumbaya so we can get 5 nights next week. So I did like that. We got our generic Red speech about hope and working together and generic Hallmark sayings. I feel like right now, like as of this moment, we're still pretty early days. We're only 5 episodes in, but he's just like the most milquetoast like Sentai Red. And actually, I would say that's Giavotella. But what I mean is, like, he's the most generic template for, like, okay, Sentai Red, kind of annoying, wide-eyed, idealistic, but there's not really anything I would say that is unique about him. There's that sort of character type, you know, that's like, I think the most common Red, which is like the loudmouth crackhead that spews like catchphrases and idealistic sayings. But I feel like most often they at least have something about them where you can differentiate them in terms of their specific personality. But I feel like right now Ryusoul Red is just the most generic template for that. And so I'm hoping we get a little bit more from him. That's kind of the way I feel about everybody, to be honest. I feel like, I know we're only 5 episodes in, and so I'm not expecting to have any sort of in-depth, you know, feel for the characters, but it would be nice to have a little bit of a feel for them outside of basically the same feeling I get when I read their character descriptions before the series starts. We did get the debut of Milneedle and then his combo with Kishiryuoh, which is probably my favorite of like the individual ones. It's kind of weird, I feel like his weapons are like flat cutting board sock'em boppers, but I love the helmet a lot, so I really dig it. So I was into that. The mecha fight I feel wasn't as acrobatic this week, but there was still some cool shots in it. Something else I do enjoy is the fact that you have like basically our front-running villain guy actually out there every week fighting. I don't know how long that'll continue or in what form as we, you know, get farther into the series, but I like that. I think it's kind of refreshing, not just from last year, but just in general. That's not something you see very often, where you have the sort of leading villains getting out there and fighting a lot, because usually they kind of stay back in the base or whatever and are like a planning person, and then they'll come out for like special events. So I really do like that about it. But I don't really have too much else to say about this episode. I thought it was just fine. Like, there was some parts I like, there's elements I like, but I just feel the show is overall really generic right now. Like, I was thinking about it during this episode, how it's weird that there's like a list of a couple things I think Ryusoulger does differently that I dig, but it also feels like really paint-by-the-numbers Sentai. I think for next week, I'm going to review next week's episode like normal when we get the debut of Five Nights, but then I think I'm going to go to the 2 episodes review schedule like I did with Gio, where I wait 2 weeks and then review 2 together, just because right now I feel like I don't have a tremendous amount to say about each individual episode, so I want to wait and, you know, cover 2 episodes at once so that I have more to talk about in general, but it also lets my thoughts build a little bit. So yeah, just so that it's an even number, you'll thank me later, I'll review next week's Five Nights debut, and then I'll return to probably a 2-episode schedule, unless things get thrown off or there's some sort of really, you know, hype episode with like a super awesome introduction. Like for the Sixth Ranger, when he finally debuts, I'll probably do his standalone just because I'll want to talk about that right away. But overall, this episode is pretty average. I'd probably give it a 7. It was like average to decent. But anyway, that's about it for this one. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and of course, don't forget to climb the steps and ring that bell with notification for all my videos. Until next time, Dawson Ryder, signing out.